All right, it is immediately following our video on this beauty over here, which is the Lyman Turbosonic 6000. I will have a link in the description box to that video so you can see what we were talking about in that one. Pretty cool device, definitely worth taking a look at, especially if you're doing what we were doing, which is cleaning of silencers. I had some very filthy ones, and I thought because they were so filthy, this would be a perfect opportunity to discuss a viewer posted question from a previous video, which is, how do you make your kitchen family safe after you've used it to clean guns? And that's a really good question because there's some nasty things that come out of guns that you should probably not be exposed to on a regular basis. And the fastest way to expose yourself to them would be to have it in your sink that you're eating off of. If you're gonna use a sink on a regular basis to clean stuff, then perhaps you ought to think about maybe installing a utility sink if you have the option, just so that you're not mixing the two on a regular basis and you don't get behind on cleaning this thing out. And that said, if you're not doing this on a regular basis like I do, then it's probably not a super big deal because the concentrations of stuff that we're talking about is probably pretty minimal as long as you do a decent job. Now, that said, you may not have access to using a utility sink or something like that. Maybe you live in an apartment, or like for instance in this situation, I have another sink that I use for this sort of stuff, but this one's much better lit and I was doing a video, so obviously I need good light to be able to do stuff. So this is the process I'm gonna use, and the things that we're talking about here, the stuff you need to worry about, are actually two things. So organics and heavy metals. Organics, obviously, things like powder burn residue, burn solvents, oils, lubricants, all that sort of stuff. And then of course the cleanup solvents that you used to clean the guns as well that went into the sink. Those are all organics, and organics are bad for us because we are organic. So carbon-based chains and things like that, some of them can be very harmless, other ones can be pretty detrimental, especially ones that have been burned or heated that contain sulfates and things like that. These are things that we don't want to ingest on a regular basis because they can cause issues, everything from DNA intercalation to, you know, free radical issues. So just not something you want to eat on a regular basis. The other one is lead. Lead, duh. Lead poisoning is bad. We don't want it in our food. So very easy method to clean out your sink after you've done using it. You can use this on your counters as well. First, we want to spray the bulk residue out of the sink. Duh. If there's a bunch of gunk in the sink, wash it down the drain to begin with. Then after that, very simply, take, you know, just whatever dish soap you got and stopper up the sink. And you just put a gratuitous amount of your dish soap in the sink and turn the thing on hot. Fill the sink up and just let the thing sit for 10 minutes. Now, what this is going to do for you is dish soap is formulated to remove grease, basically, from your food. If you've ever, or from your pots and pans, if you've ever seen it sit, you get like hot water in there, and then the micelles is what they're actually called. Micelles of fat globules are floating on the surface, and then you take dish soap and pour it in there. You'll notice that a weird effect happens where everything scatters from it. And what that actually is the soap and the water combining and basically pulling those into solution. So the way that this works is a surfactant that basically allows the hydrogen bonding of water to attach to one side of the soap molecule, and then the fatty chain of the soap molecule to attach to the fatty part of whatever you're getting rid of. Well, what is the fatty part that is? It's a carbon-based chain, and it's a carbon-based chain that's basically a non-polar molecule, which is exactly what you're going to get with all this carbon crap that is residing in your sink after you've cleaned a gun. So soap and hot water, or soap and water, does a really good job to start out with. We use hot because hot water has higher energy and stuff goes into solution much faster. If you've got hot water mixed with your soap. So we're gonna fill this thing up and we're gonna let it sit for 10 minutes and then come back to it. So now that we've waited approximately 10 minutes, next thing we're gonna do is just take like a scrubby or whatever you use and just scrub around the outside of the space that was kind of above the water level and down into the sink to get anything that was caked on the side of the sink that you missed. And just from there, after you've got all that done, just pull the stopper and let it all go down the drain. Once it all goes down in the drain, just spray out the bubbles and all that sort of stuff, wash it down, and we'll be ready to move on to the next phase. Now, that said, one thing I want to address, if you're an adult, this isn't really a super big deal. You're going to probably be exposed to more organics and more lead actually shooting the guns than you are from all this stuff, but chronic exposure is a problem, especially if you're doing this on a regular basis. Now, if the kid's over the age of 10, they probably weigh enough that the lead residue and the organics isn't going to be enough to hurt them, but still, if we want to be proactive and safe, probably a decent idea as well. All right, so now that we've washed all the organic stuff down the drain, now we need to address the lead residue that could be potentially, hanging around. And for that, we're gonna do something that your mother told you never to do, which is to mix hydrogen peroxide and vinegar. And the reason you don't do that is because you can create peracetic acid, which is a perfect solvent for dissolving lead. It's bad because it produces nasty fumes and it can actually irritate your skin quite badly in high enough concentrations. We're gonna be using, this is 3%, I believe, yep, 3% hydrogen peroxide, and I'm just gonna pour this whole sucker in the sink here. I have already pre-filled the sink with approximately enough water to create the level that we were at when we were cleaning some stuff, and we want that water level to rise above, above that level, about the same level that we had the sink at when it was full of soap and water. So again, this is taking longer than I thought it was going to. This is going to be our source of acetic acid. It's 5%. So you would ideally want a 1-to-1 ratio of this stuff, but 5%, 3%, pretty darn close. So what we're going to do is just take this little bit. This is approximately 900 mils of that acetic acid, or white vinegar, if you will. And I'm just going to pour that in there. And if this fumes too much for you, if it makes your house stink too bad, you can dilute it by adding more water to the sink. Not a super big deal. Just make sure that you have relatively equal amounts of those two compounds, and again, let it sit for 10-20 minutes. So after 10 minutes have passed, approximately 10-20 minutes, something like that, go ahead and pull your plug in your sink. Now again, peracetic acid can be very bad for your skin, so wear a rubber glove of some kind or use a tool to get the thing out so that you don't end up getting any chemical burns or anything like that. This stuff should be pretty dilute if you're using what I used, but still probably not a good idea to get it on your skin. Set that aside, and then get something that you're gonna be cool with throwing away after the fact, whether it's an old scrubby, or I'm gonna use a paper towel for this instance. And after this thing has finished draining, we're just gonna take that little bit of residue that's in the sink and use it to buff the heck out of every surface that is in the sink, just to make sure that there wasn't anything clinging onto the edge of the metal. This is a stainless steel one. You may have to do more if it's a polymer or a fiberglass sink, because it's going to be more porous. And then, again, just give it a thorough rinse all the way around the perimeter, and all of that residual, basically wash it down until you don't smell any more vinegar. And basically, your sink is now ready to accept dishes again after you've been cleaning guns. So just show your wife this video if she freaks out about you cleaning guns, and that should be all that is needed to get the organics and heavy metals out of your sink when you clean guns. Thanks for watching the VSO Gun Channel. We'll see you guys on a future video.